Hi guys, welcome back. This time around I'm bringing you, a review for 3 IEMs actually, although divided into 2 parts. The first part will be for the Kinera Queen of Audio Cloudscape. This is an IEM which follows on the formula used on the Kinera Queen of Audio Mimosa, which was a 1+1, so one dynamic, one planar driver of 6 mm, while this was a planar driver of that more BA style, setup. And then the other IEM I've got here to review as well. Well, one of the other IEMs that I've got here to review as well is the Kinera Queen of Audio, the Misty Blue, which is a collaboration IEM, and this is a 2+2. And then finally, I've got the Dunu, the Koto Ito, again another 2+2 collaboration IEM. I've added here the ZIIGAAT, the Crescent, for this comparison because it's also a 2+2, and obviously it will be compared to the Misty Blue and the Dunu Koto Ito. But anyway, let's start here first with the Cloudscape, and compare it with the Mimosa, which I think is the one that makes the most sense. Both of them are, as I mentioned, hybrid IEMs, using that 10mm dynamic driver, which is the same in both cases, paired with either a 6mm microplanar driver in the Mimosa, or then a BA style microplanar in the Cloudscape. While they both share, I could say, technical DNA, they cater for different listener preferences in terms of tonality and refinement. In terms of price, the Queen of Audio, the Mimosa, was priced at around $99, $100, while the Cloudscape at about $125. Tuning styles. What are the tuning styles? We can divide it up. We can divide it or summarize it basically in a V U-shaped balanced style on the Mimosa, and on a musical V-shape style on the Cloudscape. Breaking it down now into bass, mids, and treble. The bass is punchy and with a heavy mid bass on the Mimosa, while it's tighter, with a better perception of I would say the sub bass in terms of the Cloudscape. So more perceived punch, more perceived sub bass. Mid range wise, warm, lush, maybe here and there you can even consider it slightly recessed, while on the Cloudscape it's richer, it's a more forward mid presentation, and it's more creamy. It's just a more polished presentation in the mids. I would almost dare say that it seems like the DD here is doing more work than it's on the Mimosa. Treble wise, both very airy, that's the reality, but here it's got a hint of splashiness here and there. You get it just is comparatively less polished, while on the Cloudscape it's more refined, it's smooth, it's a less fatiguing type of treble presentation. Summarizing it, you could say that in terms of sounds, of the sound state, of the sound signature and tonality, the Mimosa, you would probably categorize it as for its vitality and energy, with its warm V-shaped or almost U-shaped kind of profile, with heavy emphasis on the mid bass, like I mentioned before, that and that sparkly treble. So there's a big disparity there between the two extremes. Sparkly highs and so on, that maybe when you get the volume a little higher can maybe then reach that unpolished or less well-mannered presentation, and the bass is more on the punchy side, while on the Cloudscape it's definitely a more refined presentation of this formula of 1+1 than the Mimosa. It's tuned with what is perceived as less overall warmth because of that slightly not as incisive bass punch, but it's definitely a way more richer, more balanced presentation, and less fatiguing in longer listening sessions. I mean, it's like I said earlier, bass punch, more sub bass, mid slightly recessed, mid slightly more forward, and very well executed, very polished, very smooth in its presentation. Treble a little bit more splashy, treble smoother. And when you actually look at the graph, you wouldn't say that by just looking at the graph. And this just goes to show that different driver types will have different presentations irrespective of the energy level that you see in graph. Let me see here if I'm missing something. Okay. I just wanted to touch up here again on this whole bass and bass mids and treble once again, just to clarify, that because of this more hard surfaced bass and with more slam that you get here on the Mimosa, you can say that the Mimosa is particularly well suited for electronic music, hip hop, but it won't be 100% in its element if you are trying to listen to more, let's say, jazz and some of the stuff that I like listening to. But I mean, this is just a slight, really slight nitpick on the Cloudscape. Again, this sub bass, this more perception of sub bass and more extension makes everything just a little bit more tighter, more controlled, and it just makes it more versatile in terms of listening to music genres which are more, let's say, audiophile, if that is perhaps a correct way of putting it. Overall, I think there's both of them do bass really well, just with slight differences in terms of what the focus is. Okay. Mid-range and treble, once again, just to make sure that things are nice and clear. Both I mean, the mid-range on the Mimosa is organic, but you can feel it's, like I said, slightly recessed, and that extra treble that it has, maybe for some listeners, it could be a little bit too much, and I do recall having read some reviews that they mentioned precisely that. While on the Cloudscape's side, the mids are, like I mentioned before, very creamy. And the treble, although it's sparkly and has definitely that planar vibe to it, it's been very well tuned. There's no the smoothness that they've incurred on the tuning of the Cloudscape's planar driver has avoided any planar timbre or any planar harshness that you can sometimes find on the Mimosa. In terms of the technicalities, I mean, both are above average sound stages, definitely. But I would say that the Cloudscape is maybe a little bit more holographic, a little bit more well done, well dimensioned, and you do get a little bit better 3D sensation here than what you do on the Mimosa, but not huge differences. In terms of the imaging, again, I would say both are very close. Maybe on the imaging, the Mimosa will edge out ever so slightly the Cloudscape, and in the all-important timbre and tonality, I would say, and I would consider the Cloudscape the better one, the one that's the more well executed. At least it's the one that definitely, for me, ticked a little bit more the right boxes as compared to the Mimosa. In terms of its power requirements, or I mean, this is always the case. You choose wisely your source. If you have a source which is going to be maybe ESS based and a little bit on the brighter sounding side, maybe I would say the Cloudscape will be the one that will manage that type of sound better than the Mimosa, and obviously, of course, this is always very much volume dependent. But definitely one thing's for sure, they both benefit from having a nice powerful power source behind them, not because it's needed, but just to make sure that everything is working within an area that is devoid of any prominent distortions or any harmonics which might just spoil the overall presentation. Design wise, I mean, it's really not something which is not very much needed to talk about. Mimosa, be it the Mimosa, be it the Cloudscape. I mean, Kinera in general, they have this very they're renowned. They're known for having very beautifully executed IEMs. Resin shell. I didn't get actually the light blue Cloudscape. I got this more darker one. To be honest, I actually now regret it, and I think the main reason that I didn't get the lighter blue one was because I somehow I got the feeling that maybe it looked a little bit cartoonish. I don't know, but I think I now regret having done that option. But the main thing here is they are very well built. It's a good quality resin shell. And you can't really fault it in terms of its build quality. Both of them are really well accessorized. The cables are the standard cables, and they fit beautifully. I mean, really nothing that I can point out as a negative aspect. And that's it. I mean, as a final verdict, I would say choose the Mimosa if you prefer a more energetic, more fun sounding, with a little bit more mid bass punch and a sparkly, upper frequency presentation. And definitely, keeping in mind that probably the listening sessions, if you like listening to it at the higher volumes, will be a little bit shorter. While you choose the Cloudscape if you're looking for a more refined, more musical presentation, experience with a smoother treble, slightly more forward mids, but which are very well executed, and a more holographic type of soundstage. And I think that's the takeaway here. Fun, engaging. If you want more slam, more refined, more mature, more delicate presentation. Both of them using the same 1+1 configuration of one dynamic driver, one planar, just different planar styles, 6mm and that plie style. I would say probably the Cloudscape ultimately is irrespective of the tuning that they've done here, but I would say that the planar used here is probably the smarter way to go than the planar used here in the Mimosa. And what I'm saying actually makes sense, because you see now towards the end of the year, well, not only towards the end of the year, but in the second half of the year, the second semester of the year, you did see a whole bunch of IEMs coming to fruition, which are using microplanars up top to give that extra sparkle, that extra detail, which is very much welcomed and makes them, some of those IEMs, some really competent tribrid sounding IEMs, because at times I would even go as far as saying that it can almost emulate an EST's presentation, which is it's taking things into a high regard. Anyway, that's then the Mimosa and the Cloudscape. Let's move on here to the Misty Blue, the Dunu, the Koto Ito, and of course let's bring out here the ZIIGAAT Crescent. Okay, let's jump straight into it. In terms of its accessories and what both the Queen of Audio, the Misty Blue bring, and the Dunu, I don't really need to delve too much into it. Again, these are two brands which always make sure that what you get in terms of accessories is spot on. The cable on the Dunu is exquisite. It's a cable that we've seen now being used quite a few times. It's an exquisite cable. In the Koto Ito, so this is in the Dunu Koto Ito. In the Misty Blue, the cable again, very nice. And again, something which is very normal for Kinera and for Queen of Audio. In terms of the build quality of both of them, spot on, resin shells, beautifully executed. The tips that both of them bring are again spot on, nothing to be said. So in that department, we're not even gonna spend too much time going into details, because the right boxes have been ticked. Good accessories package, excellent build quality, very good fit and ergonomically wise, both are excellent. There's really nothing I can say there. In terms of the configuration, as I mentioned earlier, they are all 2+2, so 2 dynamic drivers in each one of them, including the Crescent, and then 2 BAs. the way that obviously then the dynamic drivers are being used and where the focus is obviously then dictates the different the different styles of sound that we have here. In terms of tuning philosophy, and I think the big picture that we can take away here is the Misty Blue is a warm, mid-centric, and it's more emotional in the way that it does things. The Dunu Koto, it's a more balanced. It's a refined, well, not more balanced, but it's a balanced type of tuning philosophy. Nothing really, is standing out too much, but it's more U-shaped definitely, while still keeping a high level of refinement. And the Crescent, and I've reviewed it before, it's a very energetic sounding IEM, and very technical leaning. I would probably say that this is probably the most technical out of the three IEMs. And so you could, I think I can even summarize what I've just said in the following way. The Misty Blue will be the romantic one, the Ito will be the polite audiophile, and the Crescent will probably be the exciting, more modern one, in terms of this kind of tuning philosophy of the three of them. Bass performance wise, the Queen of Audio, the Misty Blue, has a softer sub bass presentation with a really well-mannered and rounded mid bass. There is just enough slam, there is just enough rumble. Neither of those two parts of that lower frequency range are overemphasized. So and both of them are very on equal point, on equal footing. Let's put it that way. I would say even that they prioritize body and quality over impact, and so this then gives you this perception of a bass which is always very supportive, but never distracting. It never, it never really overpowers anything, and that is both a positive and negative, because you can maybe even think that it sometimes might lack a little bit of authority or depth, if you want to put things in that way. As for the Dunu, it's a cleaner, more sub bass extended type of presentation, where that balance between the sub bass and the mid bass maybe is not as well executed as is on the Misty Blue. It's got a tight, well controlled bass, less that's without a doubt, but at the same time it feels less warm than the Misty Blue, because of that slightly less mid bass that we find on the Misty Blue. To say that it's got better bass definition, or I guess you could say that if you are considering how then the bass integrates itself into the mids, yes, you could probably say it's got a slightly better bass definition. So overall, it comes across as a very controlled, very refined bass presentation, where the weakness, if you want to put things in that way, is that it can feel slightly polite for those of us that are a little bit more bass, more bass lovers, and that's basically down to that, the mid bass being a little bit less present. Okay. As for the ZIIGAAT, the Crescent, it's the one that's got the strongest sub bass of the three, and the fastest transients of the three as well, and that's down to the way that the mids, upper mids, and treble are done. It's got a lot of punch, although it's also got although the sub bass is the strongest, and it's got very well executed transients. The punch and the physicality that the bass has is also the one that has the most. And the way that they've been able to do this clearly separated from the mids. So the bass here, it's an engaging bass. It's a modern style of bass, where the only thing that maybe can be on occasion perceived as a weakness is that it overshadows the mids, for those of you that are more vocal purists, because it's again one of those situations where this faster bass presentation, this very energetic sub bass, and this good amount of punch that it's got, can, for those that are more, let's say, demanding and very audiophile inclined, think that this is supporting the overall presentation and making the vocals then lose the desired cleanliness or clearness that we want. Now, onto the mid-range, and this is where I think that the things really start separating the three of them, and where you definitely see that there's no winner here. There's just three very good IMs of this 2+2 configuration that focus on a particular style of sound and focus on a group of people that like that type of sound. So in terms of the mids, the Misty Blue, it's got forward vocals. It's got a nice thick note weight because of that mid bass and that warmth that comes from behind. It's got a very warm organic timbre, and it's a very forgiving style of vocal presentation, and I think this is the reason that the Misty Blue, will be the one that will be chosen by those of us that appreciate vocals. Those of us that, like myself, that really like well executed vocals. This is definitely the IEM for you guys and for us, because it shines. This kind of reminded me when I was listening to it, to a lot of the products that we find from Penon, the older products that we find from Penon, where that mids, the vocal presentation is where the Penon products always kind of shine and differentiate themselves. As for the Dunu, the Koto Ito, the mids are more on the neutral leaning side. This slight recession, this more U-shaped, makes them less present than on the Misty Blue, for example. But otherwise, besides that, there's still excellent coherence between the drivers. There's still a very natural integration between the dynamic drivers and the BAs. So it's correct by a mid bass, correct mids, correct vocals. That whole mid range is very correct, but less emotional, less musical to a certain extent than on the Misty Blue, for example. As for the ZIIGAAT, the Crescent, I would say that they are the cleaner of the mids of all of them. But at the same time, that comes with the price of it being also leaner. It doesn't have the emotion of the mids of the Misty Blue. Obviously, they're more energetic, so it's not as neutral as the mids of the Koto Ito. It can make the vocals seem just a little bit less intimate than on, for example, especially the Misty Blue. But it does have that because of the way that the mids and the upper mids have been done, and the amount of detail that the Crescent has, it does make them very good in terms of separation. Especially if the track is a more complicated one. I mean, technically, really excellent. Although maybe a little bit emotionally colder, let's put it that way. So a lot of technical capabilities in terms of the mids here, but less musical capabilities, a little bit more sterile. I wouldn't say, take that with a grain of salt. As for then the treble and all the upper harmonics or upper register, I could say the following. The Misty Blue is smooth and a little bit rolled off even. The Koto Ito, very safe, good extension, and very refined, but very safe. Borderline rolled off. This is one of those things that it's a little bit of a delicate thing to be saying that one is rolled off and the other one is not so rolled off, because it will be very dependent on how you listen to it and what source you have and what tips you are using, how the actual IM fits you. And let's put it that both of them are smooth, both of them have a good amount of safety. They're not aggressive or anything of the sort. They both have a good amount of extension. Probably ever so slightly the Misty Blue just a little bit more rolled off than the Dunu, the Koto Ito. As for the Crescent, it's the most right leaning one of the three. Definitely, it's very energetic. And again, if you are a person that values then detail and to all the twinkles and sparkles that you can possibly imagine, the Crescent will not disappoint. That's very much the issue here. So a takeaway from this first part of what I've been talking about, we can say that Misty Blue is zero fatigue, the least air. The Dunu Koto is the best balance of smoothness and clarity, and the Crescent is the most sparkled and maybe associated with it maybe the highest fatigue risk. You know, as I was saying, if you are treble sensitive, maybe the Misty Blue and the Dunu Koto will probably be the ones that will be the best for you guys. Technical performance, soundstage, intimate, moderate, wider soundstage, definitely, because of that energy up top allows for this. In terms of imaging, average imaging, good, very good imaging. Again, all that detail up there is responsible for this. Resolution, modest, good, the best resolution, and again, no surprise. And the same thing goes for separation. The best separation here for the Crescent, good here, and average. So technically, you know, the technicalities here, at least these ones that I've mentioned, the soundstage, imaging, resolution, and separation, I would say for the most part, those are all average here. They are good in the Dunu Koto, and they are the best here on the Crescent. The technical aspect that I value the most, which is the timbre, the tonality, for me, the clear winner is the Misty Blue. It's the one that's the most organic sounding and makes things just sound the most realistic, the most emotional, as I said earlier. You know, it's and I think that is also down to the cohesiveness that they've been able to obtain here in the Misty Blue between the drivers. I think is one of the things that makes it responsible for the timbre to be so good. On the Dunu Koto, it's also very good. It's very well done, that cohesiveness, and consequently then the timbre and the tonality are also very well done. But it's just, for me at least, just not as well polished as it is on the Misty Blue. And as for the Crescent, I mean, I guess it's probably the one that sounds the most hybrid, if that isn't even something that maybe you guys will understand what I'm trying to say. This sounds like a single driver. This sounds like a single driver. This one does sound that there's more drivers involved. Okay. As for let's say the verdict, the final verdict between the three of them, I would probably go with the following thoughts. Choose the Misty Blue if you prioritize vocals, if you want to listen for long listening sessions, if you are a little bit treble adverse, this is definitely the one to go for. So if you value emotion and musicality over analysis, this is the one for you, the Misty Blue. I would say choose the Dunu Koto if you want balance and refinement, because that's something that definitely does have. If you also like a very well and very coherent IM, definitely it's a good all-rounder, really. And if you listen to many genres, so I guess those would be the reasons that would make you choose or go for the Dunu Koto. As for the Crescent, this is the IM that you would go for if you want energy, or if you value energy and clarity, if you enjoy a sub bass that's clean, precise, dynamic, but also has the right amount of mid bass and no bleed that spoils in the mids or anything of the sort. If you're someone that cares and that technicality is the thing that you're looking after, all the last twinkle and sparkle and detail in every single thing, and soundstage and positioning, if this is what you want, definitely. And if you are a fan of EDM and rock, then this definitely will be the IM for you. And that's it, guys. I think I've basically, in a nutshell, explained things here really nicely between the three of them. As I said, there's no loser, there's no winner. There's just three IMs which are very much focusing themselves on different styles of music presentation. In terms of price, I didn't mention, just 1 second here, please. So the Misty Blue in terms of price is around the 220, 230 price point. The Dunu Koto Ito is around $180 give or take, and the Crescent around the 260, 270 price point. Um, there's a big disparity here of value. I'm not going to deny it. But I think all of them have done enough to justify the respective values that they've all, that they are being sold for. Um, it's like I said before. There's no winner here. There's just three very different IEMs focused on three different listening styles, and their respective crowd that appreciates that listening style. All right, guys, let me just quickly then show you the graphs and we'll wrap things up. Okay, let's talk now graphs. I'll start off here with the graph for the Mimosa. And as you can see, really nice bass. The way that the trend rises into the mids, upper mids, and treble, really well executed. Nothing that can be perceived as no, it's not good. It's gonna be no. Very, very nicely done. Very well done. This 1+1 configuration. I mean, it's really good. Good drive integration. It sounds really good. As for the Cloudscape, a little bit less information up top, as you can see. A little bit more energetic, so a little bit more vocal energy, and overall the way that then this balance comes across, and the fact that you are using a BA style microplaner as opposed to a 6mm diameter microplaner, it just makes the Cloudscape, as I mentioned earlier, it just sounds more polished, more refined. Everything just comes across in a more natural manner. But either one of them are really good IEMs. That's the reality. I mean, there's really nothing that I can point as an absolute deal breaker. Just one is refined, the one is a little bit more energetic, and that's that. As for the Dunu, the Misty Blue, and the Crescent, let's start here with the Kinera. That's the Kinera, the Misty Blue. And you can see if I take here the 100 hertz point and I compare it to where it corresponds, it's about 2 kilohertz, but then the balance that it struck is very nice, and this is one of the points where you start seeing, well, not entirely, it's not something that you can see straight away, but where it makes sense what I was saying about that coherence of all the drivers. Everything just sounds like it comes from one driver, because everything just scales very well. There's nothing that jumps out, nothing that the way that this is done here, yes, can maybe give then that extra thickness in the vocals, but also make them more emotional, as I mentioned. I mean, if I compare it, and if I just put it now with the Dunu, this is the Koto Ito. The Koto Ito does definitely come across as more U-shaped, okay? But again, very well tuned IEM. Nice sub bass focus, a little bit less mid bass slam, especially when you compare it here. It's the balance that's struck between the sub bass and the mid bass, and then how it enters the mids. If you compare one and the other, you definitely get the perception that in the Misty Blue, things are going to sound a little bit more warm. Okay, and then up top, you can see everything again is very balanced. There's nothing that jumps out too much or nothing of the sort. Good amount of detail, nice sound stage, as I mentioned as well, which, when you compare it here with the Misty Blue, you would think, but the Misty Blue also seems like it's got a nice sound stage. Yes, it does, but the Dunu is just ever so slightly more competent in terms of that technicality. And as for the Crescent, I mean, when I show you now the Crescent, you'll understand. Crescent is an absolute beast in terms of the upper registers. Loads of detail. Sub bass very well executed. It's flat by 200. I mean, there's very little that can be faulted in terms of how the tuning has been done and how it sounds. It's just like I mentioned before as well during the review. This extra energy here does help clean up here and make this whole area more incisive, more dynamic, if you want to put it that way. Loads of detail. So if you're technically inclined, definitely you'll be in heaven with the Crescent. It then just comes down to what is overall the type of sound that you like. Very highly, very technically capable, very clinical sound, although it's got a good level of musicality. You want a high level of musicality, which is what the Misty Blue offers you, or you want something which is kind of in between then the Dunu Koto Ito might be the option here. Any one of the three are absolutely phenomenal IEMs. That's the reality. So the takeaway here is have an opportunity. If I was able to give you sufficient information to make your decision, fine, great, fantastic, amazing. If not, I would say go listen to the three of them. They are definitely, I would say that these three can be considered basically references in this type of configuration, and definitely side grades to each other. I mean, because what one does, the other one won't do. So there would be a time and a place for you to listen to any one of these three IEMs at any given point. Obviously, I realize not everybody can afford to have all three. So, like I said earlier, just go check them out, listen to them, and then make your decision. All right. As always, guys, like and subscribe. Any questions that you might have, please feel free to ask me, and I'll do my best to answer as quickly as possible. You take care now. Bye bye.